your hosts, Marcus Catkin and Matt Dougal.
Blindside Fantasy Football Podcast back. Marcus Catkin with Matt Dougal again, getting ready to talk some Week 3. But before we do that, Matt, I don't know. I mean, going into drafts this year, I was going very wide receiver heavy and, to a point, quarterback heavy because that seemed to be the safe thing to do. Not so much this year. That's not really how it's turning out with all these injuries, huh? I mean, think about these injuries for a second. I mean, Tony Romo and Stafford, Cutler, like it just...
It happens every year. It's football. It's a physical game.
Not that much, though, to quarterbacks and the big-name wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton, Benjamin, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's just been a weird year already. We're only 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah, Week 2 was definitely interesting, obviously. The narrative is a lot of studs were duds and a lot of duds were studs, but
it was a crazy wild weekend. Just terrible for me DFS-wise, that's for sure. Drew Brees, just, God. We'll
Drew Brees was horrible, and Travis Benjamin's the best wide receiver ever.
Yeah, there's your hot takes right there. There's your good takeaways. Drop Brees owners out there. Drop Brees, pick up Benjamin.
Yep,
you're good
absolutely.
To go. All right, so let's jump into these games first. Thursday night, Redskins Giants. Kirk Cousins, he loves himself some Jordan Reed. I don't know. It just. That connection just seems to be going on, and I'm loving it more every week.
Yeah, today we actually looked it up. In games with Kirk Cousins as his starting quarterback, Jordan Reed, basically his production almost doubles, at least receptions certainly, and targets. He averages about 7 catches a game, just around 75, 80 yards per game. Touchdowns is something to be desired. I think if I recall, he's had one, and that was week 1. Or was it this week he had the touchdown? He's got one this year. Yeah, this past weekend. So a guy that's targeted 11 times a game by Kirk Cousins. He's an interesting guy who's on a lot of waiver wires out there too. So if you're looking for a tight end, which you may be if you own Jason Witten, who's got a bad knee, ankle, back, knee, ankle, elbow. I mean, I think everything was sprained after this past week. Although he's tough, he'll play.
Reed, your number 8 tight end right now in fantasy, really getting it done. I'm sorry, it was week 1 that he had the touchdown, but 7 receptions week 1, 6 receptions week 2. Really like him. And you mentioned waiver wire, which I thought was interesting because the guy that probably is on your waiver wire, Matt Jones, or probably was on your waiver wire, not anymore by now, but Matt Jones really coming out for Washington. They really went run heavy this weekend. What are your takes on Matt Jones?
Well, he actually out-carried Alfred Morris. Poor Alfred Morris. All he's ever done is produced, but I got a feeling he's not keeping his job. You pointed out to me today, actually, it's his last year of his contract. They drafted Matt Jones in the 3rd round. He's a 6'2", 230-pound guy.
Big dude.
That has the ability out of the backfield that Morris doesn't possess. So, I mean, God, did he look... Watch the game tape from last week, and it's not even close. He's worlds above, talent-wise, Morris, as far as what he looks like. I understand Morris has that it factor. He seems to always produce, but when you watch the tape, it's tough to keep him off the field if you're Washington.
Now, I get it. He looked really good. Yep. He really did. He put up some big stats. I'm just worried that this has Amir Abdullah 2.0 written all over it, where people saw the game, they saw those highlights, they saw the numbers. Everybody's going to jump on him, and I think by far we saw his best week of the year.
Yeah, I still like Abdullah better. It's a better situation. Abdullah really doesn't have any competition in Detroit. Joik Bell is being relegated to basically nothing. Theo Riddick has been the passing down guy, which I think is going to change over time. Matt Jones has got to overcome a guy named Alfred Morris, who, like I just got done saying, I mean, all he seems to do is produce. I just think the writing is on the wall that, you pointed out this regime did not draft Alfred Morris. They did draft Matt, and it's just watching the play. It's tough. It's tough to imagine that you can keep this kid off the field. I could see the split happening from here on out.
After that one big game, Matt Jones, your number 9 overall running back.
It's week 2.
That's just great. Yeah, no, it's
week 2.
It's just funny. Giants side of the ball. I mean, the Giants are the Giants. Eli Manning, Odell Beckham. Odell looks great.
Yeah, it bounced back.
Preston Parker drops all those passes and rightfully so gets cut. So
Yeah.
anybody out there that was banking on Preston Parker, you're probably not listening to podcasts.
Hopefully they weren't. Yeah, that's true.
You're probably not listening to anybody intelligent. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. Maybe Ruben Randall gets a little more work now, but I'm not, guy that's the hype was there and I never fulfilled it.
But Odell Beckham, I mean, just after one quote-unquote bad game, 7 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown last week, gets the terrible Washington secondary. I mean, they've looked better.
Yeah, they've
looked
actually
better.
been pretty good this year.
But I still think Odell is going to have a good game here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's covering him. He can't be stopped. It's, he's one of those guys that I don't care who it is. Dale Revis, I'm throwing his way. As good as Dale Revis is, obviously, after you saw how he played this past week. Not that you needed the evidence with him, but he's just one of those guys for me that matchup doesn't really matter. Obviously, you'll downgrade him slightly based on certain situations, but he's too good to be worried about who is going to be tasked with trying to cover him that day. But one thing that obviously we've talked about and clear again, just stay away from that New York Giants running game.
Yeah, I was just actually going to mention that. So it's a Thursday night game. We know we like to kind of avoid the Thursday night games the best we can. Odell Beckham, you're not avoiding that, obviously. But I really don't know that anybody else in this game is in play for me.
The Redskins defense, DFS, is big time in play for me at FanDuel, $4,100. A Thursday night game, like you said. Statistics show points scoring is down in Thursday night games. And I did this last week. I went with the Denver defense because it was a Thursday night game against Kansas City. They produced 21 points. So at the price point, and surprisingly as well as they've been playing through the first 2 weeks in Washington, I think that's a nice DFS play, especially GPP.
Giants obviously bad against the run. Just after last week, you don't have much confidence in Alfred Morris. I don't know. Alfred Morris, is he running back 2 for you this week still?
Yeah, they both are.
Both of them?
For me, I'd have them ranked very closely. I think this split is here to stay.
All right. Falcons, Cowboys, no Tony Romo after he breaks his collarbone, no Des Bryant after he breaks his foot, back in week 1, and it sounds like maybe no Jason Witten for this one too.
Yeah, he said he'll be ready to go today.
I don't know, it's shaping up to be...
Didn't Jason Witten play through a ruptured spleen?
Yes.
The guy is an animal.
Yeah, no,
it takes
he
a
is.
lot
He
to
is.
keep him out.
It's amazing that with all of this, the Cowboys are 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, obviously now's the time where this vaunted line is going to have to really step up because hopefully Brandon Weeden can just manage the game, let the defense, who's been playing a little better this year, do their thing, and then hopefully...
Brandon Weeden, though, 7 for 7 the other night with a touchdown.
Brandon Weeden's horrible.
Just saying.
He's like 35 now, I think, even though he's only been in the league for like 3-4 years. He was like a 30-year-old
This is fact
rookie.
right now.
28-year-old. No, literally, he was a 28-year-old rookie.
I know.
He's an old man already. He's never been good.
No, he's never been good. He's never going to be good. I really don't know what to make of this Cowboys offense. They have to go to more of a running game. I feel like they just have to. You can't, like you said, you can't rely on Brandon Weeden.
Yeah, and Terrence Williams saved you last week with a big play near the end. The verdict is still out. The jury, I don't know. What do you think? Is he going to be able to keep producing as the number one guy, or is he just not good enough to...
Terrence Williams, I mean, in DFS purposes, you got him in drafts, and right now in DFS purposes, he's going to get enough targets that's going to warrant starting him every week.
Yeah.
Or so we'll see, I guess, with Weeden. Maybe they go even more run-heavy. Maybe they do kind of what the Redskins did this past weekend and run the ball 40 times between 2 running backs or whatever. I'm trying to avoid the Cowboys' offense if I can help it, except for maybe Witten. And even this week, I might take a break from Witten if I can in DFS. I really like Witten in general with no Dez.
Banged up as he is. I've heard it's literally both knees sprained or maybe both ankles sprained. I mean, he's banged up. Stay away from him.
Falcon side, guy you're not staying away from, Julio Jones has just been tearing it up.
Yeah.
Just must start everything all the time.
Yeah.
Everything.
If he's on the field.
Must start always.
I don't care if it's fantasy...
If he goes to
soccer, I'll play him.
If he goes to $10,000 in on FanDuel, DraftKings, you're playing him.
Yeah, he's
at this
a beast.
Point. It's amazing. He's getting him and Antonio Brown must starts everywhere all the time.
What was interesting to me was Roddy, one target,
blanked
11 targets for Leonard Hankerson, 1 target for Roddy White.
That's going to be interesting moving forward.
Quote today with Roddy, too, he said he was open. Ball just didn't come his way. They're 2-0. He's not complaining. I wonder if it has something to do with the history. Leonard Hankerson has played with the offensive coordinator back in Washington. I don't know. After week 1, I was kind of excited about Roddy for this year, where a lot of people drafted him. You got him pretty late. I thought he'd be a guy that's a nice bye-week fill-in, even a wide receiver 3 type. Just interesting. I don't want to jump on one game, but 11 targets to who we thought was the number 3 guy and 1 to Roddy, especially with the quote of him saying, hey, I was open. That's weird for me.
I think this week is going to tell you a lot about
that
how
situation.
the Hankerson-White is going to be moving forward. And I think for this week, I'm avoiding both of them.
Definitely, yep.
Just
got to see another week.
Too risky. Tevin Coleman broken ribs in this game last week, I should say. So Devonta Freeman is going to be the guy. So for what that's worth,
yeah, Freeman Ward is probably going to get a little bit of work, but Freeman's going to be the guy. So DFS type, GPP play, and if you've got him. If a guy's, I always say it, if a guy's got the opportunity, he's going to get the touches, and there's really no other competition there for him. He's going to get the work. So, you got to like it as a running back. There's not many bell cows out there anymore.
Colts at Titans. This will be Andrew Luck's coming out party. After last week in a terrible game against the Jets, at home, surprisingly, when he was at home in Indianapolis, putting up a stinker. This will be his coming out party against the Titans. I know I said that last week about Drew Brees, but obviously Drew Brees' shoulder injury really bothering him. I can't see Andrew Luck not going for 3 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, he doesn't look like himself. He's got to bounce back. Going back to, don't forget last year in the playoffs what he did to a lot of us, 0 points in our fantasy playoffs. He struggled. I don't know. Andrew Luck, we'll see. He's got to bounce back. I mean, the talent's there, and I think if anybody's going to, it's him. I'm not selling on him yet, that's for sure. Maybe even more of a guy that I'm going to try to go buy low if you can, because he'll be just fine.
Rank these 3 guys for me. Andrew Luck against Tennessee, Tom Brady against Jacksonville, Russell Wilson against Chicago.
Russell, Brady, Luck.
Wow. Russell first, huh?
Chicago Bears pass defense. Oh, my God.
Yeah, but you couldn't see this as being a game where Lynch goes for 3 touchdowns, and that's what they do. They just run the ball.
Yeah, I could, but the Chicago Bears pass defense, that's enough for me.
See, I was going to go Brady, Luck, Wilson. Most of them going to be the last one of the bunch for me.
We're a little different.
But I think, seriously, though, Luck will probably be my number 2 quarterback this week after Brady. Brady will just be so high because he is just in total F-off mode. He just doesn't care. He's going to keep throwing up 3 scores. That's just how that's going to go. Dante Moncrief in this one. Last week, I should say. I keep saying in this one. I'm so used to doing our 2 podcasts. Dante Moncrief, though, looking good. Andre Johnson not looking good for the 2nd straight week. I don't know. You getting worried about Andre Johnson?
Yeah, the targets have been there. They've had some tough matchups, but the eye test tells me Moncrief is the better player out of the 2. From what I've seen. Obviously, Andre has the pedigree. He's had a great career. I don't know if he's quite done just yet. And I talked about it last week, too, when you're out there thinking a little more than you're actually just reacting. You can look slower, and maybe he's not completely comfortable in the offense yet, although how much different do route trees really vary from place to place, So I don't know.
I think
I'm not bailing on him yet, but it's definitely worrisome, and I think Moncrief clearly looked like he's the better player.
I'm buying him right now.
Moncrief?
No, Johnson.
Oh,
I
Andre,
think Johnson has much better games ahead, especially when these matchups he has against. I mean, this matchup coming up against Tennessee, I like that. I like him for GPPs because I think he's going to be low owned because of how bad he's been. But I think, like I said, I think this is Luck's coming out party, and he's going to go nuts. Andre Johnson's going to be a part of that. Like you said, he's getting the targets. He just isn't converting them. I think he starts
7 or more
them
in both first 2 weeks. I like that. You're right. GPP, everyone's going to be looking to Moncrief, so stack your Andrew Luck if you love Andrew like you do with Andre. Maybe even with T.Y. Hilton, though, if he comes back and healthy enough. He did play last week. Did come out a little bit worse for the wear, so we'll see how that goes. What were the practice reports on him today? I'm not positive. Again, I mentioned it last week. It's my favorite day at work, open to close. I don't get much time to do my outside work activities. But
I'll look it up. But real quick, I'm just kind of surprised by this now that I'm looking at target count. Dante Moncrief was out-targeted in both the last 2 weeks over Andre Johnson.
yeah, I told you. I mean, the targets have been there, but the eye test is telling me they shouldn't be.
11 targets for Moncrief to 10 week 1 and 8 week 2 to Johnson 7. So that's interesting to me.
Oh, he is out-targeted.
Out-targeted.
Oh,
Andre
I'm sorry.
Johnson.
I think did I hear you wrong? I thought you
Maybe I said it
Yeah.
wrong. I don't know. But
more targets for
targets for Moncrief each week, which
Yeah.
is surprising to me now that I'm looking at that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm still
plenty
buying-
for both.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, more than 7 in every game. It just they're getting it done. Andrew Luck is throwing the ball. He's just not connecting on them. I think he starts connecting, and everything's going to be fine. Tennessee, I don't know. Bishop Sankey, still the guy. He's really the only guy there.
Dexter McCluster had 95 yards rushing.
They were down. He's their third down
Yeah.
guy. He's their pass catching guy.
And Terrence West fumbling early.
Maybe more of that happens though. I mean, it is the Titans. I mean, this would probably be the perfect situation where they're going to be down again and see more McCluster. So maybe, to your point, maybe we see more McCluster again this week.
Yeah, the one thing though that's good is Terrence West, like I said, another fumble early, and he really didn't see much of the field after that. Good old East-West. I don't know if you got to worry about him taking this job from Sankey. And McCluster had a great week, but he's been in the league long enough. He's a gadget guy. He's not a guy you can count on. Sankey doesn't really have the competition. So,
interesting looking at the snap counts for these guys. Terrence West, week 1, 40% of the snaps. Week 2, 6%. So that fumble
he fumbled very early.
The fumble killed him.
It's one of the games that I've gone through and noted, and that was one of the notes, fumble early and really didn't get back into the game much at all.
So if you had to guess, snap percentage for Bishop Sankey?
For week 2?
For both. Average them.
Week 1, 43%. Week 2, 50%.
Wow, you got him. You were guessing really low. You don't think Sankey sees the field very much, huh?
I can do math, and you just told me that Terrence West got 40% of snaps in week 1, and I know McCluster plays in the running back position, so 43 was an educated guess.
All right.
How close was I?
Sankey 39% week 1, 40% week 2. He's not really touching the field that much, I guess.
The West 40% week 1. That's I think gone now. They're done.
Yeah.
He fumbled week 1. He's fumbled week 2. He's new to the team. He was never very good in Cleveland anyways.
Dexter McCluster, though, did see a huge uptick in snaps last week. He went from 24% week 1 to 59% week 2.
Yeah, and it's like you said, their discrepancy
game
in
flow.
Game flow, exactly. They blew out week 1, lost week 2. Mariota could not hang on to the ball here. I don't know how many fumbles he officially finished with, but he lost about 4 of them they did recover back. But the thing I liked about him, he was shaken up early in this game.
Yeah, he had an ankle injury.
Actually, third quarter, with about 9 minutes left. He stayed in the game. You could see him limping actively. The thing I liked is the way he struggled, but played pretty decent at the end of the game. Faced adversity. The things, the talking points you look for as a rookie, beyond just the stats. The kid's just got so much poise. He's going to be a good player.
Raiders at Browns. We talked about him earlier. You seem to like him, though, Travis Benjamin. We were talking about him earlier today, and you seem to really like him. That's why I was surprised to see you kind of bashing him a little bit. You know how I feel about him. Only 7 targets in the first 2 weeks. Has caught 6 of them. He's their deep threat guy. I mean, almost 30 yards. I think it's like 34 yards of reception right now. Not sustainable. I'm not buying into any of this. You aren't?
No, I mean, somebody has to step up there in Cleveland, and while I like Hawkins, he's certainly a slot guy only. Benjamin has all the speed in the world, extremely quick, extremely fast. We lost last year with him to injury. He's fully back. It's just the point of exactly that. I think someone's going to have to step up there, and if you're in a league that counts return yards, because he does punt and kick returns.
Hopefully you're not in any of those leagues. Those are just terrible leagues.
Our league counts touchdowns for those. He's had, I think, 3 in his career now, missing last season. Plus, he had one in the preseason.
You can't count on things like that, though. He's
It's
not
a
a
bye.
Devin Hester.
It's a bye week type fill-in guy who has the potential to end up being the best wide receiver on his team, I think. So that's why I like him. He's a flyer that, because of his big playability, that 1 week you need him because of injury, like me with Alshon Jeffrey. He's a guy I'd like to plug in and hope he gets another one of these 50-yard bombs. But with Manziel being announced as the backup again, which is crazy to me. I mean, Josh McCown, sorry, whatever. I'm surprised they went back to that, and I don't know if that means the end of these 50, 60, 70-yard bombs to Benjamin. But
speaking of Manziel, I tweeted out earlier this week, is it ironic that the day that Johnny Manziel gets his first win as an NFL quarterback is the same day Tony Romo breaks his collarbone?
interesting.
Because of the whole Jerry Jones wanting Manziel, that whole thing. Like,
This could have been
just
the
kind
start of the new
just
era.
kind of coincidental. It seemed fitting, I felt.
One thing to talk about, though, is the snap count for Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell, both guys that a lot of people are rostering. Crowell was lower this week in the snap count than Duke Johnson. It was different in week 1. Duke Johnson was the guy who wasn't around much in the preseason, and it was very close.
Yeah, you're splitting hairs with that.
No, but what I'm saying is, what was the week 1 percentage?
Crowell was 49% both weeks. Duke Johnson went from 44 to 53.
So not a huge uptick.
Yeah, I think you're splitting hairs.
I'm just wondering if there is any who's it going to be, and I think it's not, that shouldn't be the question. Could be, but I think it's going to continue to be this. Crowell's going to be the early down guy. The interesting
It's going to
thing for
continue
me,
to be, I don't want to own a Browns running back.
if one of them gets the job, I do. And
Sure,
Crowell,
sure.
I think, is the better player. I still think that. Duke, what is
You
interesting
can
to
say
me...
you can say that about any team, though. If one guy was the running back on any NFL team, yes, you want him.
Yeah.
Name an NFL team that you wouldn't.
They took Duke in the 3rd round. He really didn't play much in the preseason, and he's getting half the snaps, so they like him, right? They want to like him.
I guess.
Crowell looked good, though, this week. Averaging 4.8 yards a carry, another touchdown, broke a lot of tackles. The thing that's interesting for me is that Duke isn't getting involved in the passing game. That's something he excelled at in college. So I think eventually it's going to carve out the role where it is just going to continue to be this, first, second down back, Crowell, Duke Johnson sprinkled in amongst those, but really eventually comes into the 3rd down role for me.
Raiders side, I want to talk about Michael Crabtree. 24 targets through 2 weeks. That's 24 targets, puts him tied for 5th most in the NFL.
Yeah, what do you get, 17 week 2? 16 week 2?
16.
Yeah.
This is an offense that throws the ball a lot. Derek Carr last year, I think, was top 5 in pass attempts.
Yeah, and we'll be down from time to time. This is Oakland we're talking about. Yeah. Wide receiver 3, Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, that's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean,
I buy
he has
it.
talent. I liked him a couple of years ago. He had a big year with San Francisco.
Achilles changes, guys. I don't know if he's back to what he was.
It's not going to matter if
He was about to break out.
If he gets 16 targets a game, it ain't going to matter.
No.
If me and you were running routes and we had 16 targets a game,
yeah,
we'd be fantasy starters.
Well,
maybe not you, but me. I definitely
don't know
would be.
about
Guys, roster me on your fantasy teams next year. Put it on the board.
But hey, Derek Carr.
Man, you're just getting
Amari
all
Cooper.
the McCowns.
Why'd I
the
just
Carrs.
go with the last names? Yeah. Amari Cooper, Crabtree.
Love the Luke McCown commercials, by the way, with the Verizon thing.
I don't remember them.
What?
No.
Are you kidding me? You have not seen the Luke McCown Verizon commercials with the cell towers and the backup towers and all that?
No. Oh, yes, I have. I've seen them, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
just recently seen those, yeah.
I was going to say...
I'm spending too much time watching the freaking replays scouting for these guys that are listening to us and hoping that we're going to win them leagues.
You can't not miss those commercials.
I fast forward through the commercials.
All right, go ahead. Go on with what you're saying.
I was just saying those are some names. Carr is a guy that you were looking for a quarterback today. You got Drew Brees, and we both agreed.
Carr's a guy that if you're looking for a quarterback, if you're the Tony Romo owner, if you're the Drew Brees owner, the Jay Cutler owner, the volume's going to be there.
Yeah, and the talent he is throwing to with Cooper and Crabtree is far and above the James Jones, Andre Holmes of last year. So
doesn't take much to be better than those guys.
No, I know, but
yes.
Plus, with Latavius, it's a young core that's going to grow up together and is looking looked good this past week, and I think can continue that. Remember, week 1, we lost Carr to an injury. You don't know what kind of day he would have had. Latavius Murray with 10 catches this year so far. I like how he stays involved.
He had 8 the first game, though.
No, 7. 3 in the second.
Bengals, Ravens. Big story from last week, obviously. Jeremy Hill, the 2 fumbles, getting benched for Giovanni Bernard, who looked amazing. To me, Giovanni Bernard has always looked amazing, and I was really surprised when they even drafted Jeremy Hill. I think you're buying into Jeremy Hill. It's like if you could buy low on him right now, I think you should. But I think Giovanni Bernard, number 1, is going to have more of more playing time because of this moving forward. And number 2, I mean, I guess if you can't buy low on Jeremy Hill right now, I think you can buy even lower on him next week. Baltimore. Baltimore run defense. They have a good linebacking crew, and they have a good defensive line.
That was one of the games I've already rewatched. The Bengals. It was interesting to me, even before the fumble happened, and I went back and watched it. It was
which one?
The first fumble. Not that it took a while for this first fumble to happen. The first fumble happened with 5 minutes left in the first quarter, but it was basically a split in snaps even before the fumble happened with Gio and Hill.
Because Gio looks good.
So the first fumble happened. Gio started the next drive. It was an end around, so it was a little bit of a gimmicky play. He didn't come off the field for the rest of the first quarter. The second fumble actually was a pitch, so it wasn't like he wasn't securing the ball. He mishandled a pitch, Jeremy Hill, and that was basically it after that. But one thing I noted here in big stars was, like you just said, how good Bernard looked. He looked just, we all know he's pretty good.
Remember a couple years ago, the whole pinball touchdown thing he had there where he went all over the field for like a 20-yard touchdown?
This kid was going to be a star a couple years ago, and then they drafted Jeremy Hill, who dominated as well. The way he looked, as good as he was, he ran like he was pissed that he's lost his job, and I don't know if it's going to go back to a dominated Jeremy Hill backfield ever again. I really don't. So that scares me. If I have Hill, I'm hoping that somebody still thinks he's Hill, and I'm trading him.
Before we move on to the Ravens, talk about your boy.
My boy.
Eifert?
Oh, Tyler, yeah. I mean, hey, red zone target. He had a touchdown. He leads the team in targets. That's including A.J. Green.
That's all you got?
I chatted with you earlier today about how over the last, it's either 4 or 5 years, there's no combination from quarterback to wide receiver with more interceptions when it's Dalton throwing to A.J. Green. They have a good defense with a great running game. There's a narrative I'm picking up here that they're going to a little bit more conservative-based offense, not taking so many chances with A.J. Green, who I think only had 4 targets in this game. Tyler Eifert, 6'5", 4.5 40, second-round pick just a few years ago. Gresham's gone. He's a top 5 tight end for me rest of the season. How about you?
I'll give him top 7. I don't know that I'm giving him top 5 yet.
Okay.
I do like him, but I think week 1 he was wide open. Week 2, sure, you got 5 targets.
He led the team. Tied.
But 5 targets is, Kyle Rudolph range. It's Ladarius Green range. It's, you know what I mean? It's
the pass attempts weren't there.
It just
they ran the ball 35 times,
sure.
which they're going to continue to do. They run the football. They're
going to do whatever's moving the offense. I mean,
right.
This is an offense that we just talked about it. Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard, A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert. Marvin Jones had a dozen touchdowns 2 years back. Sanu has looked good at times. It's definitely a high-powered offense. I'm not buying into the narrative you're coming up with A.J. Green. You don't pay a guy that kind of money to only get him 4 targets. Maybe this is a situation like from week 1 with Adrian Peterson, where Peterson didn't get the work, and then week 2 they were like, feed him the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe that starts happening with A.J. Green.
I got A.J. all over the GPPs.
Hey, we only threw at him 4 times last game. We need to throw at him more.
Or, hey, we won. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Who cares if he's got a prima donna about how many targets he's getting?
Ravens side, I still think Joe Flacco goes kind of under the radar. I don't know why. I like Joe Flacco. Tressman Whisperer, I don't know.
I hope we brought up Carkett Gilmore last week in the podcast. If we did, people probably love us right now.
I brought it up in my GPP video.
Good.
Hopefully people are watching my GPP video.
Good. Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
Look at my board right there. Who does that board have on it that I listen to my
yeah.
GPP video?
I remember.
Richard
I
Rodgers?
actually watched it.
Richard, you were one of the 5.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Richard Rodgers, I put on
I
that.
watched it 5 times.
Oh, damn it. I mentioned Richard Rodgers. I mentioned Crockett Gilmore. Who else is on that board that I mentioned? Hey?
Steve Smith.
I mentioned Steve Smith. Big week from Steve
You
Smith.
got Flacco up there.
Yeah.
I won't talk about Josette, who's up there.
That one hurt.
Or Jason Witten.
Yeah, but that's, I mean...
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae still paid off his price, but...
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah,
Roethlisberger.
Sammy Watkins, Roethlisberger.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Good work,
That's pretty good.
Tune in this week to find out Marcus's GPPs. But let's all remember who walked into your office a couple weeks ago and said, hey, Crockett Gilmore this week. Yeah, playing the Raiders.
Oakland's,
Jack Del Rio can't cover the tight end.
Oh, yeah, Oakland's bad against covering the tight end. So, to your point, going back to the Browns, we just went over Gary Barnidge.
Yeah.
Sure.
Crazy GPP flyer, minimum salary. Hey, it's happened 2 weeks in a row now.
2 weeks in a row, 2 touchdowns to the number 1 tight end for the opposing team.
And like you said, going back and watching week 1, I haven't seen this game week 2. It was... Your argument against Eifert was, he was wide open. If it was you running those routes, you would have caught him, and I agreed with you.
All right, we gotta step this up here because we are definitely going way long so far. So let's jump into the Jaguars Patriots.
Right, it's 1 a week.
Huh?
Well, 1 a week now.
We don't want it to be too long.
Put it all in.
Patriots Jaguars. You're starting all your Patriots. They're in total F-off mode. They are 14.5-point favorites. Holy Christ, that's a lot of points. One of the highest over-unders of the week, too. They are just going to dominate the Jaguars. Allen Robinson came back last game, but I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of up and down from Allen Robinson this year. Matt, you know what? I picked him up in our home league. I like Blake Bortles here because he's going to have to throw the ball. The Patriots have been letting up a lot of fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks already this year. Mm-hmm. That secondary has totally revamped. No Denard, no Revis, no Browner. Totally reworked. You can pick apart Malcolm Butler. That's
second week in a row.
Part of the reason why I put Sammy Watkins on the GPP list last week. Antonio Brown picked them apart. Sammy Watkins had a touchdown. I mean, you can throw on the Patriots. So that's all I'm going to say. I like Bortles this week, and start all your Patriots, including LeGarrette Blount, because I see this as being a big Blount game.
Yeah, and Allen, a big Blount game. Sign me up.
It's going to be one of those games.
First of all, I didn't. It's a play on words there. Don't sign me up for LeGarrette Blount.
Why?
I would join the car ride in with him, though, if you know what I mean. Le'Veon Bell.
Stand a little shotgun with him.
But I don't know. Deion Lewis, what did Blount have? How many carries? 2? I think he had 6 snaps he played. We'll see if that's just easing him in.
That was game flow, though, against the Bills.
You know what was interesting to me is Deion Lewis fumbled again. I thought when you fumbled, Bill Belichick hated you and your mother, but
not when you're the number 5
not when
running
you're
back
Deion
in
Lewis.
fantasy.
I guess it's
Deion Lewis, number 5 running back in fantasy.
Stephen Ridley's probably like, "Come on, what's going on here?"
sitting there from his pup list, sitting at home, just yelling at the screen. LeGarrette Blount, though, 2 carries.
So Allen Robinson, the thing with him is, hey, he blew up last week. Those are the guys you want to kind of avoid in the GPPs. But I do expect another nice game because wide receiver number 1.
Why would you want to avoid him in GPP? I don't understand.
Everyone's going to be playing him after the 2 touchdown, 155-yard point.
Maybe this
and
week
he's inexpensive.
Maybe this week because of the big blow up and because
cash game, play him because this is New England, who has now let up a touchdown to the number 1 wide receiver 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be as owned as you think because he's not a sexy pick.
Yeah,
he's not a Terrence Williams. He's not a Devontae Adams.
Yeah, but everybody knows the Patriots.
One of those guys. Yeah.
But right. I want to bring up one other guy because it's the first extensive real, and he got 27 carries. TJ Yeldon I think 28 carries. At his size, there's not many guys that move like him. I really liked what I saw.
The Patriots'
out of
run
him.
defense is terrible.
Yeah.
Patriots' whole defense is terrible.
And so he's a guy I'm all over the place on in my GPPs this week. The talent is amazing. Runs hard. He's fast. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's extremely quick.
Saints at Panthers. Matt, I just talked about Drew Brees a little bit earlier and how I picked up Bortles to start over Brees this week. I never thought I'd be saying that week 3. When talking about a somewhat healthy Drew Brees, of Drew Brees that is playing, but Drew Brees, your number 22 quarterback in fantasy right now. He is terrible.
Well, rotator cuff, too, on the shoulder that he
You
had the
You
injury
could see it in
on.
the game, too. I watched the game, and you could see him kind of making a throwing motion with his arm, just kind of moving it, and you could tell something was not right.
This is the same shoulder that he had surgery on when they got rid of him in Miami.
This worries me because as a Breeze owner, I would rather him sit out a week or two.
Yeah.
I mean...
it's a rotator cuff injury for a quarterback. That's probably the worst situation you could have. You need to be...
You could be Tony Romo. You got to
what I'm saying is it couldn't be a worse position to have this injury, right?
Yeah.
It affects your ability to put your arm over your head. You don't throw the ball underhanded in football. Hopefully he sits out and rests up. But stay the hell away from him if he plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, who are they playing?
The Panthers.
Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah, I'm not
still
excited.
Like him.
It's so weird because at the beginning of the season, I would have been excited about this game. I would have been excited about Cam Newton. I would have been excited about Calvin Benjamin had he not get injured. I would have been excited about the Saints players, and now this is just a ho-hum game to me. I'm not excited about this game.
The wide receivers were a little bit better this week. Funchess got some work. Not like he put up any numbers, but he got some more snaps this week.
Speaking of wide
Ted
receivers...
Ginn, by the way, do you have any interest in him?
No.
He's,
no.
I think, 18 targets through 2 weeks, and there's really no one else there.
No.
He's a big play potential kind of guy. I think he needs to be rostered in 12-team leagues and bigger.
16 targets through 2 weeks. No interest in Ted Ginn.
I disagree. I think he's a guy that needs to be rostered 12-team leagues or bigger.
Let me throw this out there to you. Another guy probably along the Ted Ginn line, Willie Snead. I mentioned him to you before, Matt.
Yeah.
Played the same amount of snaps this past week as Marcus Colston and Brandon Coleman. Willie Snead, 63 yards week 1, 4 for 44 and a touchdown week 2. You see in the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
someone's got to step up there.
Cooks
hasn't done it yet.
I'm not saying I'm excited about him. I'm just saying...
And I guess we got to bring up Cooks because, God, everybody loved him. Are you getting worried?
Now you're way
Big
worried.
Time.
Way worried.
Yeah.
Big time worried. If I could sell him for 70 cents on the dollar, I would.
Yeah, he's had a lot of hype and he's never lived up to it.
He had a few games last year where he looked good.
A few games. Everybody's had a few games.
Well, hey, you know what? That brings a good segue into another guy that I feel has had his ups and downs and has had his flashes, but I'm starting to get really down on. Eagles at Jets, Jordan Matthews. He just seems to be dropping the ball left and right.
Yeah, he had a rough week and a rough couple weeks. I mean, he blew the game week 1. Really, that should have been a catch. That
and just watching him again this past week, it just seems to go right through his hands.
Yeah, the whole team is in a funk. It's interesting.
DeMarco Murray too today with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, left practice. He's got to get an MRI.
They're saying it's minor, but hamstring injuries on your top running back are never
MRI
good.
too. Ryan Matthews owners rejoice.
Until this week when he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Eagles' offense is a mess. I'm trying to stay away.
Offensive line is really struggling. I think they'll improve, though. And that's maybe a little biased because I'm a Chip Kelly fan. But
let me ask you this, and this was a very tough question for me this week, but I had somebody on Twitter ask me, DeMarco Murray or Dion Lewis?
DeMarco Murray, if he's playing for me. Definitely.
That's tough, though, isn't it?
No.
No,
it's not.
I think it's, like I said, I think it's more going to be a LeGarrette Blount game, but Dion Lewis has been looking good. DeMarco has not.
If you base all your decisions in 2 weeks of football, then you're not going to make it very far.
That's kind of what I told him. You drafted DeMarco Murray high for a reason.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked good, but
you didn't even have to be high to draft him. You just drafted him high.
Yeah. Yes,
this is also true. Like Dion Lewis, you would have had to been high to draft him.
Yeah,
and you're still high if you're going to play him over DeMarco Murray in week 3.
No, but I'm just saying. I think that's a lot closer than you think.
Barring injury. I agree with you. It's closer than you think, but I'm not doing it.
No, I just don't have the trust there yet.
Yeah,
and that feels weird to say. We're talking about DeMarco Murray,
and we're talking about Patriots running backs. Right? I mean, week to week, you never know. You just said this could be a Blount game, and now you're thinking Lewis over.
Yeah, It's close.
Zach Ertz is a bum, by the way.
Yeah.
What the hell? Why does everybody like him?
You know what? You're bringing up
What's
a
he
good
ever
point.
done?
So Zach Ertz, we're down on Zach Ertz. We're down on Jordan Matthews. Is it really Bradford's fault?
Maybe.
I mean,
there was a quote, and I don't remember the player today that I read that said
and Nelson
the
Aguilar,
Cowboys.
they're not really getting Aguilar involved.
No, but the
is weird.
Cowboys. This guy said the Cowboys were literally calling out the plays before they happened in Philadelphia. So Chip's got to go back to the drawing board and figure out, what's going on.
Yeah, look at that. Aguilar, just 8 targets. Riley Cooper on his heels at 6, and even Josh Huff on his heels at 6. It's just all Jordan Matthews, all Zach Ertz, and some Darren Sproles sprinkled in. I don't know. Jets side of the ball, Eric Decker gets hurt last week. Sounds like he's going to be missing, obviously, this week. So it's going to be Brandon Marshall, who looked good last week after Vontae Freeman got out. I mean, Vontae Davis. Vontae Freeman.
That's the narrative everybody's been giving, but did anybody watch this game? He had a 40-yard reception while Davis was playing.
Yeah.
I don't get why everybody's saying that.
That was one play. It
doesn't matter. The injury happened pretty early. I think it was the second quarter. He had.
I did see that one, yeah.
He had a 40-yard reception against him. Davis also gave up a touchdown to Decker. Davis is a great player, but...
I'll say this. I've been saying it before. I've been a Ryan Fitzpatrick guy.
He's playing well.
He's always played well. He's always thrown a lot of interceptions, but he's also always thrown a lot of touchdowns.
Yep.
He's a very fantasy-friendly quarterback. He's a not-so-good real-life quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Brandon Marshall, what do you think about him rest of the season? Is he top 15? Yes. He's number 9 right now in standard scoring.
He's top 20 for me. I'll leave it at that.
Why? He looks like he's Brandon Marshall still. Last year was an anomaly.
Last
You see the touchdown he had? He had carried 3 guys into the end zone for 3 yards. It was amazing. Week 1, the way he ripped the ball from that defensive back's hands after the intercept. The guy, he's a beast. For me, top 15 wide receiver rest of the season. Right now, he's top 10. I know it's 2 weeks, but
yeah. Buccaneers.
You like Fitz.
Buccaneers.
Hold on, Ivory. Don't worry. A lot of reports coming out that he wasn't able to make it through the game because of the groin injury. And that's why he lost so many snaps near the end of the game. When they salted the game away, it would have been Ivory, but he was just too banged up to play.
I'm not really worried about Ivory. Buccaneers, Texans. DeAndre Hopkins suffers a concussion in practice. I think it was today, actually.
Are there reports that it happened in practice, or they're not sure when it happened? But yes, it was reported today, concussion for Hopkins. That's a bummer.
That's going to put his week 2 his week 3 in doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cecil Shorts is a guy to pivot to. He's been a target monster there.
It said he suffered it in the week 2 loss.
Yep.
And he missed practice today. Cecil Shorts, has looked good. I mean, he's gotten a lot of targets. He's getting a lot of work. He would be the guy that steps up to be the number 1.
Well, Nate Washington's there too, and he's actually, yards-wise, I think produced more, but the targets have been there for Cecil Shorts. They've been there for Washington as well, but I'm pretty sure behind Hopkins, it's Nate. They're
very
Cecil
close.
Shorts. Yeah,
Shorts 20 targets, Washington 19.
I think Shorts is a better player, so that's who I'm.
Shorts actually led the team in targets last week.
If Hopkins is out, who are you looking to in GPPs? Cecil Shorts.
He's not that explosive.
No one's going to play him.
No, he's not. But
and he's probably near.
Does he have that upside for you though? Really?
Yeah, they're probably going to be having to throw the ball again. I don't know how good they are.
I mean, yeah, it is the Bucs defense, so maybe. I don't know. Bucs side, ASJ missing some time, out 4 to 6
weeks. Yeah.
But Mike Evans came back. Vincent Jackson's still
and it's
there.
reported he's not going to be on a snap count this week. Evans, by the way.
Yeah, he was more of a decoy last week.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not really getting excited about any of those guys.
Well, without ASJ, a couple more red zone targets this past week for him. They're going to have to go somewhere else. Evans is a guy to try to go trade for right now before he breaks out again. Hopefully his value is depressed with his owner. They're sick of it, especially after seeing that he played a bunch last week and did absolutely nothing. Try to go get him, I think. I think that's a good pickup.
This game has the lowest over-under of the week, and I think that's right.
Yeah.
Not exciting fantasy-wise.
Charles Sims slowly going to eat into Doug Martin's production.
I don't care about any of these guys.
Yeah.
I really don't.
A lot of people
cut
do.
to the chase.
A lot of people got Doug.
I don't know. I like Doug Martin when you could buy him in the 8th round. I hated him when you had to start buying him in the 5th and 6th.
Yep.
Chargers at Vikings. Matt, your boy Adrian Peterson really came through last week. I mentioned this to you earlier. 13 red zone touches. 13.
Except that he didn't come through because he didn't score.
No, but my God, that is a ton of red zone work. They just got in the red zone and just fed him the ball.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
I think he got Norv Turner in an office last week and punched him a few times. That's my guess.
He probably brought the switch out.
Went from, come on, Norv, bend over.
He totally brought the switch out of Norv.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah.
Listen, he fumbled the ball. He put the ball on the ground 3 or 4 times, but that's just being rusty. He did have concerns with that early in his career. He corrected them. He'll be back. And I liked how they kept feeding him the ball. Don't worry about it. He looked like Adrian Peterson still. He even had a 40-yard reception. He had 90 yards plus total offense without a touchdown. Really, really was tackled at the inch line on one play that I actually when the touchdown happened, I texted you saying, "Hey, Adrian Peterson with his first touchdown." I went up and got my daughter from her nap, and I came down and they were running another play. I didn't know what the hell happened. It was called back, but yeah, Adrian, don't worry about it. Hopefully you were a guy lucky enough to go get the depressed Adrian owner after week 1. He's still a beast.
Matt, what can you tell us about Charles Johnson?
I can tell you that Kyle Rudolph is leading the team in targets, and that Charles Johnson is not quite living up to what I thought he was going to be.
3 targets in each of the first 2 games.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. This weekend is the narrative that the Vikings want. They want to let the defense dictate the game. They're going to run the football, eat the clock away, and ask Teddy to make a few plays, which he'll do.
Actually, in fairness to Charles Johnson, only 3 targets last week for Mike Wallace, too.
Well, there was only a total of 17 pass attempts, right? He was 11 for 17.
Yeah, 7 of them went to Rudolph.
Yeah. There's a guy to talk about, Kyle Rudolph. 2 games in a row with 5 catches or more. He's leading the team in targets. 3 red zone targets when you think about week 1. I don't know how many times we were in the red zone at all. We, as in the Vikings, were in the red zone at all. Tight end to a guy that's always been a name that people talk about, just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and still the verdict's out on that. A tight end that I'd like to have on my roster.
Yeah, he's a low tight end 1 for me.
Yep.
That's what he is. I mean, he's a 7 to 12 tight end.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. You know what I mean? That's
and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the low end of that. I wouldn't surprise if it's the low end of that at the end.
Right. But that's the type of guy that you knew what you were getting from him when you drafted him. Chargers side, we're still seeing Danny Woodhead get all the red zone work. Melvin Gordon still looks good. He's still getting a lot of work in general, but Danny Woodhead's still getting all the red zone looks. And Stevie Johnson, a guy that's really still kind of flying under the radar. The touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks. I think we're going to continue to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of 6 for 80 games for Stevie Johnson. And they love Danny Woodhead in the red zone. I don't even know what else to say about that. It's amazing to me. When are they going to just give Gordon a couple of carries or a couple of little passes? Like, give him something.
He'll get there.
Feed him.
He's a rookie.
Give him something.
It's just that Rivers likes Woodhead in the red zone, but they're as good as Melvin Gordon looks. I wrote in my notes how many times he passed my eye test. I think I wrote it here 4 times. God, he looks good. What a run on the first drive. I mean, he's just it's a rookie who I think's role is going to increase week to week.
I mean, Jesus.
He looks awesome. He looks so much better than the first preseason game where he ran timid, he ran nervous. You could tell it was his first game in the NFL. He's going to buck the trend of these Wisconsin running backs that come in and don't do what they did in college. He looks awesome, and I really think he's a guy to buy low on. I don't think it's going to continue to be where it's just 100% Woodhead in the red zone.
No, it can't be. It just can't be.
Gordon's going to gain trust week to week, and he's the better player. Woodhead's good at what he does, but Gordon is... I love him. I mean, he looks awesome.
I mean, eventually, inside the 5, they're going to give it to Gordon at least a couple of times. They have to, just to kind of see. I don't know. You can't, like you said, you can't go Woodhead all the time. You just can't.
Keenan Allen going from 16 targets to 4. What happened there?
he'll be fine. Keenan Allen will be fine.
Ladarius Green suffered his second concussion in a month. That's awful. I feel terrible for him.
He's going to be missing a few weeks for that, I feel. And Antonio Gates not coming back till week 5 because of his suspension.
Yeah.
So, again, maybe we see more Stevie Johnson now.
Yeah.
Maybe we see another 15-target game from Keenan. I mean, the pass attempts have to go somewhere.
Floyd becomes more of a red zone target just because who they got left for size.
Nah, but he's not going to fill, like, your tight end is the guy getting you those 7 to 10 yard catches. Yeah. So I think those are going to go more to maybe Woodhead, but I think more to Stevie Johnson. I think we see more Stevie Johnson out of the slot getting those extra catches. So he'll be another guy that I've been leaving him out of my cash games, but I really need to not be leaving him out of my cash games. I really like Stevie Johnson.
This Vikings defense is going to look more like it did last week than week 1. So it's somebody that look how they shut down the Detroit Lions run game this week. I don't love any of the Chargers against the Vikings.
Steelers at Rams. Can somebody please explain to me how right now this is a pick'em game? That there's no, like, how are the Steelers not favored in this game? I don't understand this. Do you get that at all? Like, how does Vegas have this at an even line right now?
It's at the Rams.
So what?
Maybe they anticipate Gurley coming back, making a big splash in his first game, but I agree with you. I don't know. But they're better better at that than us. So,
what I think is interesting is Roethlisberger came out today and said that they're going to continue to go for 2-point conversions. I don't know if you've been following them this year, but they've tried three 2-point conversions, and they've converted all 3.
Yep.
For comparison purposes, they've tried 4 extra points kicking the ball and only converted 3 of them.
In statistics throughout the NFL, 53% conversion rate on 2-point conversions in the regular season this year, 8 out of 15. The kicking is 94.4%. Do the math. Out of 100 of attempts, you're going to score more points by going for 2 every time. If they can, I think if this 53% continues, you need to go to 2-point conversions.
I mean, I think this is for me. This is big news that I think is going to go under the radar with a lot of people. If you're always going for 2-point conversions,
yeah, that's 2 points for whoever scores it.
Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, like all those guys, like that's an extra chance to get 2 fantasy points for all of those guys, at least 2 or 3 times a game. The way they're going, I just think for me that's something that I think is huge. That is flying under the radar with a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned Le'Veon Bell. Hey, D'Angelo, you've been awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, my God. If we could buy Le'Veon Bell right now, do it.
Do it. I am a huge Adrian Peterson fan, but no question for me the number 1 running back is Le'Veon Bell.
This is
so one of the notes I have from the Niners-Steelers game here, and I keep them short when I write these, just so I can I know what I was writing about.
This is attention span, guys.
It basically says Steelers O-line continues to push Niners back. Oh my God, holes. Bell, exclamation point. I mean, both weeks now, it just seems like D'Angelo's got so much room to run. The offensive line is dominating their opponents, and Le'Veon Bell not only is going to be in this great situation, but he might also be the most talented running back in the NFL. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do. 2
more weeks until Martavis Bryant is back too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been seeing what's been going on with guys like DHB.
Yeah, he's been in the Martavis role.
Oh my God, it just... If you can buy low on Martavis Bryant, buy on him too.
Yeah, I've tried.
This offense is going to... I have too. This offense is going to be amazing when they are clicking on all cylinders, when Martavis is back, when Le'Veon Bell is back, and then, for what it's worth, Roethlisberger just amazing at home.
And don't forget that Pouncey's out, and they're still doing all this. It's amazing to me.
It's crazy.
It's an all-pro center.
Rams side, I really don't think there's anything to talk about.
I'm just excited for Gurley.
I am too. I want to see it. I want to see him come. I want to see him play. Every week he's a game time decision. Yeah. How is that possible? How can you be a game time decision for week 2 and be a game time decision for week 3? How did you not get at least a little better?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, they don't need to tip their hand either. So
I guess. I mean, whatever. 49ers Cardinals. Carson Palmer looking amazing. Larry Fitzgerald just apparently found the fountain of youth and shaved 5 years off. Carson Palmer looks great. You probably want to talk about your boy David Johnson.
Unfortunately, this is the game that I had just started watching, and I haven't been able to actually make it past the first couple of plays, so I can't really speak to how he looked. Obviously, I saw the highlights. It's funny, 55-yard on his first reception or touch of his career. Follows it up the next week with a 108-yard kickoff return. He scored again. His snaps increased from, I think, 5 to 16. Bruce Arians has come out and said that, what did I tell you today? I'm forgetting it's going to be, his role is going to continue to increase week to week. And then a beat writer also said that even though...
And by increase, it's gone from 0 carries to 5 carries. Next week, it'll be 7 carries.
So a beat writer out of Arizona also said that this week, even though Charles is still... Jesus, too many Johnsons. So Chris Johnson is still number 1 on the depth chart, but it's going to be a timeshare this week, much more than it was the 20-6 last week. But one thing I wanted to bring up is Larry Fitzgerald had all the numbers, but there were a good 3 to 4 deep plays that I wish you could get credit for, but we don't in fantasy football, that put Larry Fitzgerald in these positions to make the touchdown because Brown was the target deep. I still like John Brown quite a bit. He's
what I think is interesting. The one point I just want to pull away from how crazy these first 2 weeks have been in the NFL. David Johnson is your number 7 fantasy running back.
Yeah,
which I think is crazy. Of the top 12 fantasy running backs right now, 6 of them are backups on their own team. 6 of them.
Yeah, crazy.
D'Angelo Williams, Dion Lewis, Danny Woodhead, David Johnson, Matt Jones, Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah,
crazy to me. It's crazy to think that if you were one of those guys that said, I'm going to do that whole 0 running back theory, you could have landed 2 of these guys, if not more.
Yep.
You could be doing amazing right now with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it would have been tough to know when to start each of them, but...
Matt Jones wasn't started in the whole entire world this weekend, I bet.
No.
Other than his mom.
No. 49ers side, Carlos Hyde gets banged up last week. I think he's going to be fine and play this week.
I got some great notes on the Hyde situation. You can't read through the box scores.
Listeners can't see this, but he has them all on a Trapper Keeper.
Yeah, so Hyde was awesome for the first quarter of the game. He looked just like the week before. I thought he was another week coming. It was 22-3 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. There was a fumble. I don't know whose fault it was. It was on a handoff, so it could have been Cap being a little high with Hyde. There was an injury, 29-3. So the game's basically out of reach anyways, but 29-3. So the concussion is what everybody's talking about. Then the knee contusion. The knee contusion play. Did you see it? It was funny. I happened to hit pause as this play happened. It was a helmet shoulder directly to his kneecap, and I don't know how he didn't bust his knee in half. He instantly from that play on did not look the same. There's a reason that he didn't produce like week 1, and I don't think you have to be worried at all. He's going to be just fine. The kid is a stud.
He also didn't produce like week 1 because you can't produce like that every week.
He was well on his way from those first quarter of the game. He was doing absolutely fine. There was I can point to the play. It's 29-3. There's about a minute left. I guess I can't point to the play. I didn't put my notes good enough, but I could show you the play where he just looked like a different man after that, and then eventually didn't finish. He was trying to play through it, basically.
All right, rapid fire, because we got to start getting to these a little bit quicker here. Bills, Dolphins. I love Jarvis Landry. He is just reception yardage machine. I'm in love with him.
Yes.
I don't know.
Outstanding after the catch, too.
Bill's side, I am buying into Tyrod Taylor.
You are? Good.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. We mentioned this week 2 of the preseason that we thought Tyrod was going to get the job. So
over 40 rushing yards in each of the first 2 games.
He led Virginia Tech in the history of rushing at quarterbacks, and you know who else went there? Michael Vick. So this isn't a surprise. Plus, he showed you last week when things were rough that he could air it out if he has to.
For me, those 40 rushing yards every week, the 4 fantasy points you're getting from those rushing yards is the equivalent of an extra passing touchdown. So don't let that go. I mean, just because he gets 200, 250 yards passing and a passing touchdown, that doesn't sound that exciting. But those 40 rushing yards on top of that is the equivalent of another passing touchdown. So if you can get a guy that gets you 250 and 2 every week with with a lot of upside, like Taylor can give you,
Yeah.
I like.
How many picks did he have?
I don't know.
Was it 2 or 3? One of them was not his fault, right off Charles Clay's hands.
Yeah, that one was bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, not a surprise to me. We always like the running quarterbacks. He's a guy that definitely go get him if you haven't gotten him yet.
LaShawn McCoy too. Man, he is just missing out on all the touchdowns.
Yeah, but he looked really good this week. He seemed to be much healthier.
Playing against the Patriots.
I know, but I mean, just the way he moved, I'm saying. You could see in week 1 that he was playing kind of banged up. He looked healthier this week.
I'm just concerned he's not getting the ball as much in the red zone, and that Carlos Williams is getting the ball a lot. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Watkins looked good, finally.
Yeah, I mean, Vontae Davis. That's what happened week 1.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And this week this past weekend, like I said in the GPP video, he had a great matchup.
Yep.
It's the Patriots. Malcolm Butler is not a shutdown corner by any means.
No.
He was a situational player last year. He was the guy that played 20, 30% of the snaps, and all of a sudden he's the
better
number
than
one
you're
corner.
giving him credit for.
Of course he is. He's in the NFL. But I'm saying, like, he's not a number 1 cornerback for any team. He shouldn't be. Bears, Seahawks. Matt, we talked about it earlier with Russell Wilson. I really like Russell Wilson in this game. Seahawks projected, 16-point favorites playing at home. Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch are going to go nuts this weekend. Jimmy Graham, hopefully they get him more involved.
Oh, he will be.
Just 2 targets, and he has been expressing how upset he is about that.
I'm stacking Wilson and Graham all over the motherfucking place this week because he's pissed. He's basically let it be known.
I like Baldwin too, though. Baldwin 7 receptions in each of the first 2 weeks.
Yeah,
consistent.
Yeah, but I think
cheap for DFS.
People are going to Graham's $6,300 in FanDuel this week. He hasn't done anything. I think a lot of people are going to pivot away from him.
Yeah, in GPPs, everybody's going to be off Graham.
Yeah,
or there'll be a lot of people off Graham. Maybe not
the
so much here.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? He's basically. He's pissed. It's numerous sources are saying this. He hates how he's being used. The targets haven't been there. And did you know that he's really the narrative as well? He's blocking a lot more. He's blocking on 30% of snaps he's in the game, which is 1%.
No, that's the same. Yeah, that's the same as he was in
I know.
New Orleans.
That's what I'm saying. It's 1% difference from what he was in New Orleans. So that's not the case. They just need to realize that they're 0-2. They brought in this guy because he's a generational talent. It's time to get him the football. I think this week's going to be the week.
Matt, you're an Alshon owner. Is he playing this week?
He didn't practice today. It's looking more and more like he's not going to be. And you know what? With Jimmy Clausen throwing him the football, if I'm a Alshon Jeffrey owner,
such an ugly offense. And
I'm not 0-2, I'm actually hoping he sits out another week. I just want him to come back completely healthy and stop with the Jimmy Clausen thing, please.
Ugly offense. Broncos, Lions, they just let Peyton Manning run the offense, right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Jesus Christ. Just that's what he does. He does the no huddle. He calls his plays. He's your offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Just let him do it.
Yeah, he's got to play out of the shotgun. I mean, we saw the difference. He was a different quarterback when that happened.
It just needs to happen. Just let it happen.
Yeah, and
Kubiak, just let it happen.
Listen, he's not completely out of the water. We talked about how we were nervous and there was a lot of bad throws in this game, but
yeah, I mean, the accuracy is
he came
bad.
through at the end, and there was a pointed difference where they went into the hurry-up. They went back to the shotgun. He looked more like Peyton Manning, so he's just not comfortable under the center.
And Demaryius, I think, is a good GPP guy because we know that the talent is there. It seems like Peyton Manning is getting his act back together now that he's running his no-huddle, and his price is really depressed now because of these last 2 weeks. It has gone down, I think, $1,100. And
there's not much higher ceiling than when you're talking about Demaryius Thomas. So
I love it.
C.J. Anderson, obviously, you got to be worried if you're an owner of his. He's playing through some banged up, but nobody's getting it done.
One more bad week, and it's Ronnie Hillman time.
Hillman's healthy, and he isn't getting it done either. So I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. I think it has a lot to do with this offensive line not producing.
Lions side, I'm trying to stay away from Abdullah if I can. Calvin is Calvin. Tate is Tate. But the guy I really want to talk about here is Eric Ebron, a touchdown in each of the first 2 games.
Yeah. The guy was a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Physical freak, no doubt about it, and he's becoming more and more of a part of this passing game. Plus, the Vikings generally do a good job against the tight end, so to see him come through for you again was a little bit of a surprise for me. Calvin, you love to see the targets, and we talked about this last week. The Vikings in his career have generally done a good job stopping him. So he's back. The thing is look out for Stafford. He's banged up from what I hear.
Yes, he is. Eric Ebron, 15 targets on the season, 10 last week. He's 3 targets off from Golden Tate. He's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, when it comes to talent, there's not much better out there for a tight end.
They really got Calvin.
You said you're staying away from Abdullah.
I just don't like the situation. It's just so
this game got out of hand really quickly. And Theo Riddick is the passing down back, which I think is slowly going to go away too.
It's Riddick, it's Joik Bell,
but Bell is very uninvolved.
You still got mouths to feed with Calvin and Golden Tate and Ebron's
Bell I think is an afterthought. His snap count went down from week 1 to week 2.
Let me put it this way: if you were ranking people right now, Abdullah or Giovanni Bernard higher this week?
Bernard.
Yeah, but I think that's the same. It's almost the exact same situation for me. It's not quite the starter, but good enough to be the starting running back. But then there's all these other weapons around him, so they could easily spread the ball around to any of those guys.
You know what? I hope he has another horrible week, and I'm going to be doing everything I can to trade for him next week. Because I still
think
believe
he'll be
in
the
him
guy
rest
by the end of the
season.
year. Yeah, he'll be the guy by the end of the year. Chiefs and Packers. Eddie Lacy obviously banged up, and we don't have anything clear on him for Monday night, and that's the problem. It's a Monday night game.
Planning on testing it tomorrow, and that's been the time frame since the injury happened.
Yeah, I mean,
basically.
hopefully we learn a lot more between Monday night.
If he plays, I don't know if you want to. I heard Sherman mention Sherman. Wow, going back in time, huh? Mike Sherman. How long has he been gone? Mentioning a 50-50 split even if he plays, so I'm staying away from him even if he plays. But please just sit him. Let him get healthy. Starks look good.
Yeah,
you got to get him if you have him.
Starks
you have Lacy, you got to get him.
Fine, and the Packers 7.5-point favorites at home.
And I hate
so it's not like you need him
because you picked up Starks and I don't have him.
I told you. For me,
I figured you'd wait it out. You'd drop him after a couple weeks. I'd go pick him up. But
the top 5 running backs in the that you're drafting,
handcuff.
You need to handcuff those guys.
Yep.
Maybe not all of them. I shouldn't say that. It's just, I mean, like the Arian Fosters of the world, you don't handcuff that because it's a mess. But I think when you have a clear-cut number 1 guy, when you have a Jamal Charles, when you have a Marshawn Lynch, when you have a Eddie Lacy, Adrian Peterson even, I feel like those handcuffs need to be owned because if those guys go down, there's a clear guy that's going to get 20 touches.
Yeah, I don't know about Lynch, Rawls, but everyone else, I agree with you.
Sure, Lynch goes down, it's Fred Jackson.
Yeah, that's my point. I don't know if it definitely is.
Yes, it is. Of course it is.
Okay.
I don't think there's
the other ones I agree. I don't know about him.
I don't think there's any question to that for me. But I just think those guys you handcuff, and even more so maybe with Eddie Lacy, because you know this is an offense that's going to put up 30 points.
Yeah, and Starks looked awesome last week. 95 yards rushing, right?
Yeah, 20 for 95.
Yeah.
Chiefs side, Jamal Charles looks amazing. Touchdown each of the first 2 games. He is their offense. Travis Kelce looks amazing, getting a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, last week he didn't do a whole heck of a lot.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they still don't have a wide receiver with a touchdown?
Right. Buying low on Macklin, though. The targets have been there.
Macklin's getting the targets, and he looked good in preseason. Got 2 touchdowns in the preseason. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen.
Yeah. A great buy low candidate for me.
Yes.
And Kelce, I don't think he had a very good week, but he'll be a top 5 tight end this year. There's no worries there.
I mean, it's getting pretty clear there with Kelce now. I mean, 58 yards this past week, but your number 3 tight end right now, Travis Kelce.
Yep.
It's going to end that way. Matt, you got anything else you want to add? I know we went way over in time today, but
did we?
Yes. You got anything else you want to add before we?
I don't know. Let's keep it going. How long are we over?
We're over enough that we're not going to keep it going for nonsense.
Over and over again. All right. Yeah. Nope. No problem. Hit me up.
I don't know
Twitter
why
if you got any questions.
I don't know why, but when you just did that over and over again, I had flashbacks of Nelly. Remember the old Nelly song?
Over and over again. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, just let everybody know how old we are.
Yeah.
I heard it once on YouTube.
All right. With that, guys, we'll you got any questions for us, make sure you hit us up on Twitter, at Marcus Katkin, at Matt Dougal. Good luck this week. Make sure you check out my cash game lineups that I post on the website, as well as my GPP videos. The GPP picks have really been hitting lately, so
we're good at this stuff because let's face it, we think about this over and over again.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you.